Alright, I'm gonna be doing a commentary for the 25 Waycrest Manor that I did a few days ago, or 2 days ago, whenever it was. I'm gonna be going over the talents here at the start of what I chose, and I'll kind of be going over certain like mage tips or things you can do, as well as like rotation stuff. Um, and yeah, let's get right into it. I think at the start I didn't show my talents, so I did pull up my talent tree. So I'll go to that as soon as it starts if I don't pull it up. I am using the buzzing rune, so it's the crit rune, and a first type adverse flask. I'm critted into a bunch of or I'm gemmed into a bunch of crit gems, and have like crit enchants and stuff. So typically you can run corrupting rage if you want. Yeah, I didn't show my talents. I had it pulled up. All right, here. So this is the talent tree that I chose for this key. Um, the main thing, this is fortified weak, and it's fort spiteful volcanic. For most fort keys, or especially fort spiteful, I have been running frostbite this week. That's kind of a toss up. Like I said in my previous video, there's kind of really only 4 talent choices that this last talent choice can go through. And now that I have the talent tree up, I can kind of go through those. But the only 4 choices you really have, I mean, you technically have 5, but so you technically have frozen touch, Slick Ice, Ray of Frost, Chain Reaction, and Frostbite. I would almost literally never take Frozen Touch and never take Slick Ice. So, and then your choices basically are between Frostbite, Chain Reaction, and Ray of Frost. These ones are only used in literally like pure single target, and obviously keys are not pure single target whatsoever. And obviously just Slick Ice is better than Frozen Touch and single target anyways. So it kind of leaves you with Frostbite, Chain Reaction, and Ray of Frost. So I'm using Frostbite on Fort weeks, especially on Spiteful weeks, just to kind of help mitigate like the Spiteful affix. Obviously, it does give you a little bit more crit chance because there's going to be chances that your mobs get frozen, so that'll be a little bit more, I guess, like pad damage in a sense. And other than that, you could take Chain Reaction or Ray of Frost. For every single Tyrannical week, I'm always taking Ray of Frost. On Fort weeks, this week especially, I'm taking Frostbite just because of, like I said, because of Spiteful. But overall, doing better overall damage in keys, Ray of Frost is actually the go-to in basically every single key. It's just better than Chain Reaction because because Iceland's kind of got nerfed in and then 10.2, and because our 10.1 tier set was kind of around Iceland's, Chain Reaction got a little bit more value last tier, but this tier, since it's around Glacial Spike, your Iceland's kind of hits like a wet noodle. So Ray of Frost is actually like basically the go-to for almost every single key. So basically your only 2 choices are going between Ray of Frost and Frostbite. And like I said, on Fort weeks, I'm typically going with Frostbite. It's just a little bit more overall, at least in my eyes. I haven't really tested out a whole lot, but Ray of Frost is obviously better for prio mobs. It's obviously very good on bosses and like the elite mobs that can't actually get frozen. But yeah, this is my talent choices for this. And then for the general tree, Waycrest Manor is one of the only keys that I think is actually almost mandatory to have both Spell Steal and Remove Curse. In my Spell Steal Remove Curse video that I made yesterday, I have all of the Spell Steals and Remove Curses from all the keys. But Waycrest Manor, I believe, has 5 Spell Steals and Remove Curses. So it's pretty beneficial so that you actually have both of these for this key, especially Remove Curse. Remove Curse is the one that's a lot more needed than the others. And then obviously I am running Ice Cold with double Cryo Freeze. And then you basically if you're running both Spell Steal and Remove Curse, you have like 1 free talent that you're sending somewhere. You can put that into Diverted Energy. On Entangling Weeks, you can put it into Energize Barrier. You could put it into Ring of Frost for some keys to mitigate like the people that jump on you, or you can put it into the Mirror Image talents. Unfortunately, these Mirror Image talents aren't great, but basically this free point isn't really great to begin with. Like Diverted Energy isn't that great of a talent anyways. So kind of just this last point is kind of can go wherever. But again, for Waycrest Manor, you do need Remove Curse and Spell Steal. So yeah, and then I am taking Time Manipulation and Temporal Warp for these keys. And now we'll get into the key. So the first pull, it looks like we did the souls. I typically don't like doing. I don't like using Icy Veins on this pull because typically the next pull after this is going to be a big pull, and we use Lust for it. I also just don't really like this pull in general. This pull is like 20, 30 seconds, and it's like 2%. So that's just personal preference, but obviously the same combo that I talked about previously. You start with Precast Blizzard and Orb, Comma Storm, Cone of Cold, Orb, Comma Storm. And like I said, because this pack isn't really that important, I didn't use Icy Veins, I didn't Lust, and I didn't.
It's literally a 2% pull.
And I didn't use
It's not
Balefire
worth it,
either.
guys.
This pull I'm typically used to it being a Guardian, or you get a Witch pull, which it doesn't. I don't know if we actually got a Witch or not. We did end up lusting, which I think is good. I think you want to get Lust on cooldown basically ASAP in this key. On Tyrannica week, you basically save it for the first boss, so it's like 3 minutes into the key. The one reason why I've been debating not running Frostbite, especially in Waycrest Manor, is you see it's like proccing like none of the times on any of these mobs. And that's kind of because all these mobs are not, I guess they're considered like elites, but they don't actually get frozen. So it's kind of a little unfortunate for our tier set because Glacial Spike won't actually shatter on the vast majority of them. So this is one key that I've been debating not running Frostbite on Fort Weeks. I messed around a little bit with Frostbite Sub-Zero. So if you are running Sub-Zero, which I'll actually go back to the talent tree. If you are running Sub-Zero, the way you swap it around is you swap. If you're going to run Sub-Zero, you always run Frostbite. That's just always how that works. And then if you are going to run it, you just swap Splintering Cold to Sub-Zero. And this is basically just your frost spells do 10% more damage to enemies that are rooted and frozen, so that's why Frostbite gets a lot of value from it, because it has a lot greater chance. This does benefit from your tier set, your Glacial Spike, when you're shattering an AoE with Ice Nova or Frost Novas or whatever. This is a lot more like AoE pad, and a lot more like, you'll do more overall, but you lose a lot of single target for taking this over Splintering Cold. So I don't entirely recommend this unless it's like packs that are like an insane amount of AoE and then the bosses like aren't really important. Especially on this key, I didn't take Sub-Zero because a lot of these mobs can't get rooted. So that's the main thing why I didn't take Sub-Zero for this. But now that Spirited Defense cast is one of the spell steals that you can do in this key. None of them actually ended up getting off, but if it does get off, it's something you can spell steal, and you do actually get benefit from it. So. Now I did Lust a little later than normal. Normally you'd want to just immediately chain it. So that's the Spirited Defense cast that he was casting again. But again, none of these. I believe it's only this mob that we pulled from in the room that can actually get hit from Frostbite. Yeah, you just saw the little debuff that got hit from Frostbite, but none of the captains or the guards can get rooted. So this key is not great for running Frostbite in. I've been I think if it wasn't Spiteful, I wouldn't be running Frostbite. I'm kind of running Frostbite just to help with Spiteful a little bit, which already Frost is a pretty good quality of life in Spiteful weeks, just because we basically have slows up 24/7. But all right, now for this boss, I'm not a huge fan of this boss on Frost, especially because tanks typically don't like to tank him together. It's kind of hard for the first mob, but for like this one, if they brought it over to like this mob here, and then the next mob they'd bring it over here, you can now use your Cone of Cold. Unfortunately, in this spot right here, your Cone of Cold, it doesn't actually like big enough to hit all 3 mobs at once, so you can't really use your Cone of Cold combo. But obviously always make sure you're targeting the mob that's going to have the Claim the Iris, so it takes the additional damage. And I do like, this is one key. I guess I should have went over that when I go over my talents. I'll go back to it once it gets to the actual boss, but running Ice Flows on this key is very beneficial. Not only is it really good for this boss, but it makes you have Blink, and in Soulbound Goliath, you can actually blink out of the roots if you get it. So that is very, very strong for this key. But Ice Flows, again, is just good for this key because the second one, you have to be moving while casting the entire time. And then for this phase, when Sister Malady is the main witch going, this is another reason why you want to remove Curse. You can actually remove the decurse that people have on them. So I typically decide to remove it off myself, or if there's someone who's like low health, I remove it off of them. And then for kicks for this boss, you always want to make sure that you're kicking a mob that isn't the one that is targetable right now. So right now, since we're on Sister Malady, every single one of the casts, or at least it was when Sister Malady was the person, the one that you're attacking, every single one will go on the tank, so just don't kick those. You want to be kicking the ones, the off witches, the witches that can't actually take any damage currently. So like for this one, I realized the shaman was low health, so I dispelled the shaman so they weren't getting the ticking dot. And now we're on the Sister Briar. Now, if you do get Jagged Nettles, this is a really good instance to use Alter Time if you're at obviously higher than 90% health. I didn't end up getting it here, so it didn't really matter a whole lot. But you can Alter Time the Jagged Nettles and immediately go back to above 90%, which is obviously very good because the dot will immediately go off of you. That shaman's dead. So this is an instance where I could, since he did group all three of them up now, this would be a great time that I could use the Cone of Cold. I believe I'm probably waiting to use Cone of Cold until I use my next Orb in Comet Storm. And I have a Balefire coming up, so I should be lining it up with my Balefire. Yep, exactly what I did. I am using Blizzard here because 3 target, because you do, even though it's reduced damage. So you can see my orb is all coming back. It's reduced damage, but you still get the CDR from it. So yes, I am still casting Blizzard. I'm not casting it here. I shouldn't be casting it here on 2 target now, unless it's the instant cast one. But I am keeping Blizzard uptime on 3 target. And now you see, because I didn't lust immediately after the 40 seconds was done at the start, you see I'm basically losing. I'll be losing an extra lust here. I should probably be like using shifting powering right now. Otherwise, I'm going to be losing value from lust. It is very big, so when you're the only lust in a key, it's not as big of a thing. But when you're not the only lust, if you can eke out extra lusts based on like with your shifting power, I basically recommend it as much as possible. So this is another one of the pulls that Frostbite, like I said, Frostbite doesn't have a lot of value in this key until basically the next area, or like the area by Rawl, the Glutinous. But like none of these mobs can get frozen. This is another part of the decurse. So we do have a shaman, so I don't need to pay it as much of attention. But the runic mark by the witch is something that you should be dispelling. And now if you ever get an etch, you can invis it off. So you saw I did that originally. I invis the first one off. I can go back to that. I get the first etch, and it was trucking me. I didn't have any defenses rolling, so it was hitting me for 35% per one. I should have done it immediately, because I now took 2 ticks instead of 1 or none. And the cast just ends. So that's pretty beneficial invis for you to use for this. Now, I typically like trying to game Alter Time if I do get etch. I am focusing the Runeweaver, just because it is the prio mob in this pack. This is kind of where you'd want. So I got etch now, and I'm going to Alter Time. I tried gaming this. If I realized how big hitting it was earlier, I would have Alter Timed now. I'm pretty sure I die here, or at least I remember dying. Yeah. I knew how much damage it did.
There's no, that's like a minimal overkill. I guarantee you it's Giga Small.
I died to an 839 overkill. So I wouldn't recommend trying to game it as much as I do. As soon as I saw it was that low, I should have just Alter Timed back to 100%. This is a very common occurrence for me. It's kind of a meme. I always die to like less than 1k overkills. It's just like a common occurrence of just like I'm always dying from minimal overkills.
Fucking 839.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
it's
is it always me?
Yeah.
Why
And
do
I was
always die?
My last Cone of Cold combo, I kind of misaligned with my Balefire.
These minimal overkills.
So I did have Balefire active here, but I'm saving for the next pack because I know the next pack is going to be a big AoE pull. And then I'll have Lust, Icy Veins, and Balefire, plus my my Cone of Cold combo.
It's such a meme at this point.
Would I Lust with less than 5 minutes on Exhaust if you had like a Shaman? Yes. So that is why I'm saying if you have another Lust in your group, try and get as many Lust out as possible. The only time that I wouldn't recommend it is if there's like... If when you're going to Lust is like a really important phase coming up, let's say it's like like a Ridicron or like the third boss of Falls or something like that. If you're going to be lusting a Dragon Pack on like Tyrannical Week, it's not that big of a deal versus saving it and having that extra lust for like the boss itself. So that'd be the only time I would recommend not like trying to milk out the extra lust. But like in this case, I could have been doing it and I can get an extra lust. Or maybe like 2 extra lusts over an entire key. But so now since I saved cooldowns and I have Balefire and everything from this pack, this is a massive. This would basically be a massive AoE pull. I should have popped mirror images going into this pull because I know that I'm going to be generating a lot of threat. I think I actually, if I remember properly, I actually get the aggro from the Thorn Guard. So like I started here, same combo I've always talked about. Precast Blizzard into Orb, into Icy Veins, into Comet Storm, into Cone of Cold, into Balefire. And then I Glacial Spiked. I did Glacial Spike and I didn't freeze it all there, which I should have. I didn't freeze because it was on the Thorn Guard. I probably should have Frost Nova'd, just so that I didn't take one of the Winter's Chill stacks. And then I should go, yeah, I Comet Stormed and then Orbed again. So my combo there wasn't great. I did mess up. I did Glacial Spike because Glacial Spike should have top priority in your rotation, even after you use the Cone of Cold combo, just because Glacial Spike will be doing, especially in these massive AoE pulls, it actually does more damage than like an extra Orb would do. But as you see, I think I peaked at like 2 point something mil. Oh, I don't actually have it up. But okay, well, 1.8, so. Obviously, lots of damage here with our burst. Obviously, this is all the burst I would possibly have. I'm in Icy Veins. I'm in Lust. I have Balefire going. So yeah, you saw I just got meleeed by the Thorn Guard as I got chunked to 1% health.
I had the fucking aggro of the. Oh, I had aggro of the fucking Thorn Guard.
Yeah. So like I said, if I popped mirror images, that would have been fine because I wouldn't have aggro from it. But
don't mind my 2 mil DPS.
now here I think I target the elite mob, or I might target the Thorn Shaper. Okay, yeah, I am gonna target the Thorn Shaper. So in this case, I'm targeting the. This is kind of like. I'm doing this kind of for security reasons. It'd probably be best for me actually not to do this, just in terms of time loss. I'm targeting the Thorn Shapers here just because the Infected Thorns on Fort Week are very hurtful to us. I should be targeting the mini-boss because basically this means once the Thorn Shapers are dead, we're just going to be single targeting the mini-boss for a while, which isn't really recommended. I should just be like using AoE CCs and stuns and interrupts for the Thorn Shapers instead of targeting them. So that's kind of not a great thing that I did. Like you see, the Thorn Shapers are going to die here, and then we're just going to be one targeting for a while. Because the Matron does nothing to anybody but the tank. They just do Thorn Barrage on the tank, and that's it. And then they do the... I don't know exactly what it's called. It's the thing that just makes us move, though. But, like, it basically does nothing to any of us. So... I have a focus kick macro. I should just focus one of the Thorn Shapers, or like set my focus to them. The Splintered Spike is the only thing that this Matron does to us. Now this is another Cone of Cold combo. I don't know what I just got hit by there. I think I just got spit. So I've always been really worried about these mobs on Waycrest, and especially the Gorgers, because these spits like truck you. I don't know if I actually got hit by spit or not. Oh no, I was just in a fire. Interesting. We don't worry about that. We don't worry about me standing in fire. Yeah. So in this case, all right, I'm gonna go over what I should be doing here because I have Winter's Chill on an elite target, or 2 Winter's Chills on an elite target and nothing else. Okay. So in this case, I'm gonna be Glacial Spiking, and because this is an elite mob and won't get frozen for my Ice Nova, and I don't want to use this Winter's Chill stack, but these mobs are all freezable. The way that you should go about this, I can Glacial Spike Ice Nova just because I'll still get value from the Glacial Spike and Winter's Chill because I have 2 stacks. If it was 1 stack, you would obviously not want to Ice Nova because Ice Nova would use the Winter's Chill stack. Personally, in this case, I think you could, the way to not use the Winter Chills but still get value from your splitting Glacial Spike would be to either use your Pet Freeze or Frost Nova in this case. So I think Frost Nova is probably the best case in this, because I think I'd still want to use like Ice Lance on my main target for the Winter's Chill. So I actually didn't shatter that Glacial Spike at all in AoE. Fortunately, it looks like the second one did actually crit on the off target. But I used Glacial Spike into an Ice Lance, so I used both Winter's Chills regardless on the Matron. But if I Frost Nova'd, it's a guarantee it'll crit on the Matron, or have the highest chance to crit on the Matron due to Winter's Chill, but then we'll also crit on the side mob, on the secondary mob, because it'll be frozen from Frost Nova. So that's what you want to do on elite mobs that can't be frozen by Ice Nova. It's a lot bigger of a deal when the mob only has one Winter's Chill stack on it, because you don't want your Ice Nova to take over the Winter's Chill proc. So in this case, I like Glacial Spiked into a Flurry. This is okay because I don't have any Winter's Chills on the elite mob. So obviously that one's going to crit, but it might not crit on any of the secondary ones. And then for this, be aware of the Gorgers jumping. You can play around with Ring of Frost in this key. I've debated on doing it a little bit. You used to be able to use the fountain to dodge the Gorger jumps. Yeah, so I just got double jump there. And I think I also got spit. So when the mobs die that they pull in here, I don't know exactly which mob it is, but...
Well, like I didn't personally jump into it.
Yeah, so double Gorger is kind of just, you're just dead. Unless you're, Ice Cold or G-Invis or something like that. But you saw I got spit into double leap. So I was full health too. Or very close to full health.
Well, like I didn't personally jump into it.
So...
Oh my god.
I do think that barely overkilled me, but the dot would have killed me regardless. So that's something that you can use if you are paying attention to their timers, you can stun them, or you can use like Ice Nova or Frost Nova to stop their jump. But the Gorgers really hurt on fortified weeks, and I'd be aware of them. That is one reason why I wanted to run Frostbite in this key a little bit, to try and help the Gorgers a little bit, the people jumping on me, to try and see if that would help stop their jumps at all. Because kind of similar to the Berserkers and Everbloom, if you time your freezes right when they're about to jump, it basically cancels their jump, and it like resets their timer. And I think we are just doing these mobs until Lust comes back up. So I know we're going to get more Gorgeous here, so I went into... I put Mirror Images out to begin with just to have the DR. And I should be using the Cone of Cold combo here. Yep, I used the Cone of Cold combo. And I am saving Icy Veins here, just because I know we're going to be doing the boss next. It is... I'm not sure if it's still... On Fort Weeks, it's not as big of a deal. But... saving Lust for this boss is pretty common, just because the Soul Thorns themselves, especially with an Augmentation Evoker, because if someone other than the Augmentation Evoker gets the Thorns, it's going to take a while for you to actually break them out of the Thorns. Fortunately for our group, with me as a mage, I can always just blink out of them. But yeah, I don't think there's a way to blink these Soul Thorns either. It just RNGs. So if you see Soul Thorn goes on me, which I think this first one does, I can just blink out of it. So blink removes the stun. So it's a huge upside to running Ice Flows in this key over Shimmer for that reason. Obviously, there's a little extra benefit from the first boss of you can cast while moving during the second boss phase, but... Now, you can... I've been debating trying to save some Glacial Spikes for the Soul Thorns. I don't really know if it's worth it or not. You should normally have enough going that you don't need to save a Glacial Spike. So like kind of in comparison to like last season's keys, I would save Glacial Spikes for the Brackenhide totems. So like for this one, I'm going to be having a Glacial Spike coming up, and I have a Flurry. So I just Glacial Spike Flurry the Soul Thorn, and it's basically dead already. So it's... If you want to, you can save a Glacial Spike. You should be able to get a Glacial Spike in between every single Soul Thorn, though, especially if you're in cooldowns, if you're in Lust or Icy Veins. So like this one, I'm probably not going to. Alright, so for whenever the fire phase happens, You have multiple defensives that you can use for it. Typically, I just Ice Cold. That one I Ice Colded and Alter Timed. You can G-Invis, but... So like this, I have nothing going for this, and I don't have a Glacial Spike, so this one's obviously going to take a little bit longer. I did end up getting a Glacial Spike and using it, but so the Glacial Spike was hit it for, I think it was like 600k or something. So it's obviously still nice to have the Glacial Spikes, but now again here I'm Glacial Spiking. I am using Orb here, so another somewhat you can kind of save for. You can kind of save Orb a little bit for the Soul Thorns just to make sure you have that going. Everyone typically stacks in melee regardless. It doesn't really matter if I'm the mage, so I can just blink out anyways. That really doesn't matter. But if that was someone else, I would have my Orb, my Blizzard, and all my Ice Lances. So again, when we're going to hit the fire, I'm going to be using one of my defensives. So I use Ice Cold again. You see I'm taking no damage. Obviously, because I have the 70% DR from Ice Cold. This is something you can just alter time for it. You can just G-Invis. I would recommend using one of your bigger defensives though. So either Ice Cold, G-Invis, alter. Obviously, Barrier will be somewhat helpful. Barrier mirror images, but I don't think that's really enough, especially on a high enough key that those things will actually hit you for a decent amount. But
Blinky, blinky.
and now here I know the boss is just going to die before the next Soul Thorns comes out, so I'm just sending my Glacial Spikes and all procs that I have regardless. I am saving my Frozen Orb though, just because I know the next pull is going to be an AoE pull. But yeah, this is one key that I would 100% recommend taking Blink over Shimmer, just for the second boss alone. If you get them, it negates that entire mechanic. Now, I am, as a mage and as a clothy, in anything, I am very scared for all of the AoE packs here, just because of the Gorgers and the Spit. I would have defensives rolling, so like I always have a barrier going. Unfortunately, you will be using defensives for the second boss, so you're kind of going to be a little dry on defensives running into them. But
Invoker's dead.
again, I used the Cone of Cold combo. I just used Balefire, so you see, I got the double Gorger here. Unfortunately, I did have barrier rolling, and we also had Zephyr, so I had the DR from that, and we also linked it. So, but you see, it was still just hitting me pretty heavily. It's hitting me for like 30% of my health. For here, I would either recommend targeting and focusing the Gorgers just in terms of like survivability, kind of what I did with the Thorn Shapers earlier, or I would target the people who do the Dinner Bell cast, because those mobs are unfreezable. And I'd interrupt the wretches if you can. So the stewards are the ones that they aren't freezable at all, and they do this Dinner Bell cast. These are the ones that you want to make sure you have your flurries on, or your Winter's Chill stacks on, to make sure that your Glacial Spike actually benefits from shattering on them as well. All the other mobs, basically, I know Manathar has a script if you use Plater. I think it's like a weak aura and also like a Plater script. It only works if you have Plater though. Of changing the nameplates to show you which ones are freezable and which ones aren't. Personally, I don't use Plater, but you after a little bit of time, you kind of just know which mobs are freezable and which ones aren't. I'd be really wary of any of the Spit mobs and be looking to use AoE CCs on them if there's a lot going off. So like in the kitchen after this next boss is an area where I would be very, very careful.
What the fuck just hit me?
So like there, I think I actually got like Spit like 3 times in a row and just got chunked. But everything else in this pack is freezable. So the peasants are freezable. Other than now in this pack we pulled this. He has a Gorger. But then he also has the stewards. The stewards are the ones that aren't freezable. The piglets are basically, they do, I think it's called Snout Smack. It's just a tank ability. Other than that, the only scary parts in these packs are the Gorgers, at least for DPS. So like here, I should yeah, I lushed again. With 5 minutes, technically, if you shifting power on cooldown as a mage, your lust cooldown is 4 minutes 12 seconds because shifting power gets you, will get you a 12 seconds back per shifting power, and obviously if you have, you can do 4 of them between every single one, so you get 4 minutes and 12 seconds worth of for your lust timer. So you should technically be able to get 3 lusts in every single lust window. But there are times like you're going to need to be saving them if you're not the only lust in the group. So here, I actually liked what this tank did in this pack. Not a little bit at the start, but he pulls some of the side mobs in, because if you pull this next room, especially on Fort Weeks, and someone gets like 3 spits on them at once, they're just dead. So you saw our Evoker there. Our Evoker and Shaman both just got like 2 spits, and they both just got chunked at like 30% health. If one of them happened to get 3, or like all of them, they're just dead. And you can interrupt the infests from the from them as well, from the maggots. Now, if I remember correctly, I think we did actually wipe here. Yeah, we called a wipe. I'm not sure why our DH was like standing right here in this spot, and it considered it being not in melee. Unfortunately, I did just use Icy Veins, but I think we just called for a quick wipe. Yeah, we called for a quick wipe because this mob can't actually get reset. This boss, I'm not sure why it can't get reset, but. And then there's a few things that I will show on what to do as a Frost Mage for this boss. Obviously, I'm any mage in general, but Frost Mage is very very good for this boss in terms of slows and stopping the servants coming in.
Yeah, I think our timer's fucked now. Maybe not. We do have 75% trash.
Alright, so for this boss, I typically tend to bait the tenderizes. The tenderizes are baited on players. You can shadow meld them, or like invis or whatever, but I don't think it's really worth. It's just, you just dodge it. You can also meld or invis the rotten expulsions. I don't think that's worth either. And then I don't really worry too much about these ads. You can use these ads to get the your Cone of Cold resets, but it's kind of iffy if you're actually going to hit the boss or not. So like tenderize is, and then we just run to the side. He did shadow meld, so it recasted. Or he didn't shadow melt. Well, I don't know if he shadow melted or not, but the rogue used one of his invises.
What the fuck was that?
So I wasn't really expecting that, because you don't really need to use it on tenderize because it just recasts anyways. But this is another good use of ice flows, because I can cast while moving during ice flows. Obviously, you can shimmer them, but and then for me, you don't need to do this. I kind of did this just on this one. You can polymorph one of the servants. The DH is saying that don't hit the ads right now. He'll stack them. So he actually uses his sigil of, I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's this yellow sigil that he'll put down here eventually. It's this sigil right here. I think it's sigil of change. This is where I would use my Cone of Cold reset for typically. As you saw, I did it there. And then I just go back to full single target on Ral. And again, I'd keep your Blizzard up, because you will get the CDR from these orbs, but I've only used like 1 Blizzard at a time. I wouldn't try doing like 100% uptime on the Blizzards, but... And then otherwise, as a mage, especially as Frost Mage, me taking 2 Frost Novas, I can stand either in the middle or on one of the sides and basically almost completely negate the ads. So if I'm standing here, I can like Frost Nova. So I did end up Blizzarding here, which it's not great. It's only 2 targets, so it's technically at a loss. But I'm just basically using it for the slow here. You can just Frost Nova these, and if no one's hitting them, the Frost Nova stays for 10 seconds, I believe. So, again, this is another spot that I can use my Cone of Cold reset. I didn't actually use my... Alright, so I used my Cone of Cold reset there. The DH gripped them again with the Sigil of Chains, so... if you do have a DH, it's pretty beneficial. And now you see the first servant that came out got released from my polymorph, but my Glacial Spike hits them anyway, so it roots them. So Frost is pretty good for dealing with the servants, just due to our slows and the fact and our roots. And now after 2 servants, the boss died. And now this is why I liked our DH pulling some of the maggots in prior. You'll see how dangerous these maggots are in this pull if we don't interrupt them. But we do get the witch here as well. I think this witch changes week to week. It seems like it. I don't believe it was here in the first week, and then it's been here. It was here this week. Now again, here I'm using etch. I did alter time too late, so I alter timed at like 54% instead of at 100. But I do think this is another one where you want to use your decurse. Now like I said prior, I did it in the first tick. So the first one I use alter time for. The second one, like I said, you can Shadow Meld or Invisit. So I get the etch this time, and I Invisit, and it cancels the cast. It doesn't recast. Unfortunately, the Shaman did use Link for this etch, which is a little unfortunate, because it's just a waste of a Link. But now I get this etch again. I didn't use any defensives for this one. I could have Ice Cold, because you don't really need Ice Cold for anything else that happens for a little bit. And then decursing the runic mark that comes out. I did get every single etch, which I'm not sure. I don't think there's any way to bait the etches. I think it's just RNG who gets it or not. But now we saw, because I used my Lust before, because they came off cooldown on the boss, I actually got an extra use out of it, because now the Shaman gets to Lust on this pack that we wanted here. And I'll use my Cone of Cold reset with my Balefire. And you should have your Cone of Cold and Balefire lining up. It should line up every other one. Same thing if you're running Ray of Frost. It depends what you want to use it with. I would typically use it with Cone of Cold for keys. And then I would use it for... and then I'd use it on Ray of Frost if you're running Ray of Frost on Tyrannical Weeks for bosses. And now this Matron is another one that has a decurse, this Dread Mark. You can just dispel. So I dispelled the rogue immediately. All right, we're gonna mute myself. We don't need to hear that. I think we actually ended up butt pulling the side pack. I don't remember. Oh, yep, we did. It looks like the Evoker pulled. All right, so there is 2 different ways to come downstairs. The first one is the one that we just did. You come down after you do Rawl from the kitchen, and the second one is where we go down now. It kind of puts you in that exact same room that we just died to. I was just gonna go back, but then I remembered that there's a door right here that you can just walk down. And since we're pulling this, so you typically don't do this because you don't typically pull this area, but since we are pulling this area for percent, this is a good pull. Well, not that it's a good pull, it's a good spot that you can just go down. Unfortunately for this pull, I literally have like no cooldowns. I literally just had Balefire combo and I don't have Icy Veins or anything. Now because I'm shifting powered, I should just Icy Veins immediately here, which I didn't. I think I was planning on saving it, but I didn't realize the rogue wasn't here yet. So this pack lasts like way longer than it should have. But here I am targeting the mob that isn't freezable, so the captains. It seems like in every single pack in Waycrest, there's at least 1 or 2 mobs that don't, that are non-freezable. So those would be the ones that you want to be focusing if you can. So we saw there, I should have Ice Nova'd because I had Ice Nova up. Your Ice Nova is a higher priority, so in your priority for freezing your Glacial Spike, shattering it in AoE, your prio is your Pet Freeze, followed by Ice Nova, followed by Frost Nova. Obviously, that you should have your Flurry on like your main targets, on your main target if you can, because then you don't have to worry about that at auto shatter. But if you're on, if you don't have a Flurry or you're just wanting shattering on AoE, like when you only have 1 Winter's Chill on the target or something, then that's your priority. It's your Pet Freeze and then Ice Nova and then Frost Nova. So again, here I unaligned my Balefire and Cone of Cold combo, so now I'm basically just going to be sitting on my Balefire here for a bit, which isn't great, but So there, I used the Glacial Spike, and I had no flurries on the target, so I Glacial Spiked into a Ice Nova combo to hopefully shatter as much of them in AoE as I could. Obviously, it's a little unfortunate when you're in these packs that have like an unfreezable mob, so like this witch is unfreezable. But I'm hoping that my secondary Glacial Spike will hit like one of the Scar Souls or one of the other mobs that are feasible, so that it does get benefit from the 2-set. And now you need to be aware of the candles. That is a tank thing typically for this. Uh, it's unfortunate a lot of the time that the candle just happens to be there when I tried polying it and I found out it's immune. But so there is one thing here that I would say, especially as a ranged, it doesn't really matter if you're mage or whatever, just any ranged, you're actually in range of Lady Waycrest in order to kick them. So you can kick them here. And now since I did use Lust earlier, so I'm watching. I have my boss frames here. I'm watching when they're casting, and I can kick it. So I kick this one, I think, or maybe not to the next one, or not at all. But you can kick the racking cords. It does recast like immediately though, so it's not as huge of a thing. But this is also another boss that I love. I did get hit by that one, where I love ice flows for. You can just be running around like in a little circle while she's casting the discordant cadenza. You can also just use your your ice lance procs and stuff during it as well. So I probably should have used my Balefire near the start of the pull. So I'm using it now with a Glacial Spike. If you don't have Ray, you should be using it after you cast Glacial Spike because most frost damage is calculated on hit instead of on cast. So if you cast your Glacial Spike and then Balefire, your Glacial Spike should benefit from the intellect that you get from your Balefire. And if you don't have a poison dispel, just be very aware of the virulent. I think it's a poison. Just be very aware of that because it does chunk you for a decent bit. But you saw I just interrupted. It does look like it doesn't actually recast, so that's good. I'll go back here. You see there, she's just chain casting Racking Cord, which is the damage. It's just like random damage that goes out, and she just casted it on the rogue. And then I kick this. She casts this one. It hits the rogue again, and then I interrupted, and now she's just not casting it for a while. And then as soon as both of them come out, I typically like target swapping to Lady Waycrest because she has more health. But now this is where you get two targets. So if you do have two flurries and you have a Glacial Spike going, this is where you would target swap and make sure both targets have Winter's Chill when you cast a Glacial Spike so that they both shatter. Now I did Icy Veins here. Yeah, I could have saved it. I could have not saved it. I didn't really care too much. I just Icy Veins, even though knowing that next pack, I know that I'm going to have the Balefire coming up probably. So I'll have my whole AoE and Cone of Cold combo for the next pack of the jumpers. Um, I could have saved it, but then I wouldn't have it for the start of the next boss. And then I used Iridul as well. So this is where this is the two target combo that I'm talking about here. So I'm at 4 icicles and I have 2 flurries. So what I do is I flurry my main target. So I flurry Lady Waycrest, and then I target swap to Lord Waycrest, and then I can use my Glacial Spike flurry. And now both of them, you'll see, both of them will have Winter's Chill on them, and both will get hit by the Glacial Spike. Both will shatter, and they'll do the AoE shatter in both of them. So that's what you need to do if you have multiple flurries and you're in 2 target, is you want to spread your Winter's Chill. Technically, you can do that if you're at, I believe it's 3, if you have 3 icicles, you like Frostbolt Flurry on one, and then you target swap to the other, and then Glacial Spike Flurry that one. So that's just a typical like Glacial Spike combo, but it's a little different when you're in 2 target and have multiple flurries. So now here, I don't have Frozen Orb. I didn't really save Frozen Orb from the boss, but it's not too big of a difference. But I was saving my. I wouldn't recommend exactly what I'm doing here. I was saving my Balefire just because I didn't have Orb up and then I didn't have Comma Storm up here. So I waited to use my Cold combo until I had both of them up, and then I used my Cold combo with Balefire. So I did lose a little bit of DPS because I was like waiting for so long to use it, but and then since all these mobs are freezable, I just used the Glacial Spike Ice Nova combo and shatter them all. Obviously, I'm doing a decent bit of damage still, but with that Icy Veins, it's not great, but you need to be careful that like that just happened. The one mob that I targeted with a jump, unfortunately, I don't have the timers for their jump. The one mob I targeted with a Glacial Spike is the one mob that jumped away, so I literally just got no value from my Glacial Spike shattering because it just didn't shatter at all. It just went on the one mob that was over in Narnia, which is a little unfortunate, but and I am telling them for this, don't count on Nox to kick the Death Lens from the boss, because Glacial Spike will obviously freeze them, and so the Nox won't work. There's nothing you can really do to deal with that. It's just Frost Mage things, unfortunately. But now you see, I'm gonna have my Lust coming up here. This all came down to me using Lust on Rahl, before it came back on cooldown. Now that I used it there, I have another Lust here, and then I think the fight actually ends before we get an actual Lust, or we have like 2 seconds of an actual Lust. But I'll get another Lust here on this boss by myself. I also like Ice Flows on Volcanic weeks, just because like there I can just Ice Flows away and Ice Flows while the Volcanic is on me. Now I can't be using the Balefire. I should be using my Balefire on my next Glacial Spike combo. So I should be using it right here. Yep, I have Glacial Spike going, and I use it as soon as I've launched it. Now what I could have done is I could have waited to use my Lust here. So typically if you don't gain another value from Lust, you should be using your Lust with your Icy Veins, or at least that's how it is in single target. I'm not entirely sure if that'd be the best case here for M+, because I do think having just cooldown running at all times is pretty beneficial. It's a little bit of a DPS loss in terms of like maximizing your output, but killing these mobs I think was pretty important. So, and I have noticed on this key itself, DB doesn't actually work to interrupt Death Lens. Only your Nox do. So for us, it's only Blast Wave works, but Blast Wave doesn't. And now for this boss, if you do happen to get a Death Lens, you can actually blink out of them. So Death Lens is a stun. I think I actually end up getting one of them in this for this. We'll have to see. I don't remember if I do or not. And now here, I did use, so since there was 3 targets and I knew it was going to be shattering on one of the small ads, I did end up, and I didn't have any Winter's Chills on the main target, but I knew it was going to shatter off this guy. Or I did have one Winter's Chill. So what I should have done here, instead of what I did do, so I ended up Glacial Spiking into an Ice Nova. Instead of Glacial Spiking into an Ice Nova, I should have Glacial Spiked into a Frost Nova. So that way, these mobs would be frozen because they can be rooted, and then I would still benefit on Gorak Tool. But unfortunately, I used Ice Nova. So like I said, my Ice Nova used my Winter's Chill stack on the boss, but then it hit the small ads. So that's the case of what you want to do when you have one Winter's Chill. What I did there is not what you should do. Don't use Ice Nova if you only have one. You should use Frost Nova, because Frost Nova doesn't consume your Winter's Chill stack. So I think I get this Death Lens. Oh no, I didn't get that one. I'm not sure if I get one this key then. Make sure you have defensives. It's not as big of a deal on Fortified Week, but make sure you have defensives for Dread Essence. You saw on the 25 with Barrier up, it hit me from like 94% to 60. On a Tyrannical week, if you don't have defensives rolling, you're going to get one shot by that on a high enough key. So we did end up getting Lust here for the last like 3 seconds of the fight. So that one I did Frost Nova, my Glacial Spike. If we go back, I didn't have any Winter's Chill on the target, or I might have had one. Okay, so I wouldn't have, I just did it because I could have Ice Nova'd if I wanted to, but instead of Ice Novaing, I didn't want to consume a Winter's Chill stack, so I Frost Nova'd, and then it shattered on both targets. And you see the 158k that is shattered from hitting this guy. And that is the 25 Waycrest. I did 294k. We obviously had a full wipe, and I died in cooldowns twice or once. I died in the cooldowns once. I died out in the hallway and by the witch. But yeah, that is the commentary for the 25 Waycrest. I'll obviously get better with these as it goes on, and I am telling you guys better tips and combos for specific keys. Obviously, as I'm doing the first ones in each key, it's gonna be a little iffy. It's a little iffy for the first few commentaries that I do for each key. But as I go on and do a little bit more of them, I'll be more familiar with giving you guys tips for like why I'm doing specific things in certain keys. But yeah, that was it for this commentary. If you guys did like the commentary, make sure you guys, follow the YouTube because I'll be doing a lot more of those. I'll be doing a lot more commentaries here soon. And if you want to as well, I always stream on Twitch. So thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary.